I'd like to welcome to the show Will Chamberlain. We've had him on before. We talked about the Maryland dad, Kilmar Abrego Garcia, the last time. And Will Chamberlain, he's a senior counsel at the Article 3 Project. Super smart. He was one of the first to go through all those legal documents that demonstrated that Kilmar Abrego Garcia's attorneys were lying about his past and his gang connections. And I know you guys really enjoyed listening to him the last time, as did I. So, Will, welcome back to the show.
Good to be with you, Liz.
Okay, so you had a very interesting post on X, which I want you to explain and then expound upon. A lot of us were very turned off by the behavior of Renee Good's lesbian sex partner, Becca Good, with that camera outside the car, taunting the federal agents, then screaming, "Drive, baby, drive," encouraging Renee Good to accelerate into that ICE officer. And you contend that this was not just, bad behavior, that there were actual crimes that were committed and she should be charged for them. Can you walk us through this whole thing?
Yeah, so I think I think you could argue that she committed 4 different federal crimes, or that the evidence for 4 different federal crimes was revealed by her conduct. So the first, I think she revealed the existence of a conspiracy between herself and her wife to obstruct federal law enforcement. She said something along the lines of, don't bother checking our license plate. It's the same one that'll be here later this evening, which indicates planning, like a long-term idea of what they're going to do in the future. And she's not the driver of the car, so you can infer that there was an agreement between her and her partner to do this. So that's a conspiracy to commit a federal crime. That's a 5-year count if it's a felony. Then the actual physical intimidation and obstruction, the whole weird posturing where she's like, "Yeah, what are you going to do, big boy?" or something like that. Like, that's right, step back. That's intimidation of a federal law enforcement officer. That's a felony. So that conduct is itself probably criminal. And then she committed 2 different, in my view, distinct federal crimes when she told her partner to drive, baby, drive in the face of a lawful arrest. So first off, she's kind of inciting, again, a fleeing of a lawful arrest. I think the incitement itself is a federal crime. And then since the partner is in front of, the law enforcement officer who shot Renee Good was in front of the car at the time, and she drove essentially to make the guy think he was about to get hit, that means she also incited an aggravated assault with a deadly weapon against the law enforcement officer. So that's 4 separate federal crimes in a span of a minute. One of them revealed, and then 3 of them committed on the spot. And so from the beginning, I've said that there's all the talk in the media and the chatter is whether or not Jonathan Good committed a crime when he shot Renee Good, or sorry, Jonathan, I forget his last name, but
Ross. I think it's Jonathan Ross.
Ross, that's right. Jonathan Ross committed a crime when he shot Renee Good, but that's not what happened. He did it in self-defense, and it's important not just for justice, but also as a teaching function for the public that the only people who committed crimes here were Renee Good and Becca Good, and so Becca Good, in my view, needs to be prosecuted. Also, in my view, this will be good for Mr. Ross, because eventually he'll be able to sue the estate for all of his, not only the physical damage, but the trauma, the fact that his life's been shaken up by this, and all that money that's gone into that GoFundMe for Becca Good from the left can go right into a judgment and go right to Mr. Ross when he collects.
Oh, okay. I want to actually expand on that in a second, because that's very interesting. I didn't know that was possible, but I want to play this clip. It's the Alpha News clip is the one that I'm referring to. And I want to play this because it's about 47 seconds long. And I believe every single thing that you described is evidenced in this clip. So let's watch it so that we can pinpoint it, so we all can understand exactly like where the crime happens in the video. If we can roll that, Spencer.
Change our plates every morning, just so you know. It'll be the same plate when you come talk to us later. That's fine. U.S. citizen. You want to come at us? You want to come at us? I say go get yourself some lunch, big boy. Go ahead.
Out of the car. Get out of the fucking car. Get out of the car. Oh! Fucking bitch.
Okay, so 47 seconds. All 4 crimes that you described are in that clip.
Right, exactly. You hear the discussion of the plates, that they'll be there later that day. That's revealing the existence of the conspircy.
And it's a conspiracy. Sorry to interrupt. I just want to make sure I fully understand this. It's a conspiracy because they are breaking the law, not just because they have a plan to show up and, exercise their First Amendment right later that day.
You can infer the existence of a conspiracy to obstruct law enforcement by their conduct, right?
Okay.
So their conduct indicates they're blocking in the road, they're standing in the middle of the road, they're trying to physically obstruct law enforcement. And so the idea that if they're going to do that and then say, oh, we'll be here later in the day, you can take that and use that all to infer the existence of a pre-existing plan to physically obstruct law enforcement, which is a federal crime, a federal felony.
Okay.
And then the actual intimidation that she personally does, when she talks to him and says, go away, big boy, right? Like all that stuff. I think that is itself, that's intimidation of a law enforcement officer. And then you hear the key moment, which is the two distinct crimes, which is drive, baby, drive. Like that's coming from Becca Good. She's telling her partner.
Yeah, that one's so awful. It's so awful.
To drive, to flee a lawful arrest, and then to, be, I won't say, again, I don't really call this attempted murder because we don't really have a decent, it looks like she was trying to escape, but you're still escaping indifferent to the physical security of the ICE officer in front of the car. Right. And you're attempting to escape a lawful detention. So both of those things are still very serious federal crimes. I think, if Renee Good had survived, she would be facing multiple decades in jail for her conduct in that 40-second span, right? That's, people just kind of gloss over that and only want to talk about the officer. It's like, no, why are we here? Because this is also something I've noticed from the sort of reasonable centrist types who try and be like, well, both sides, maybe Renee Good and the officer both made mistakes here. It's like, no, one person's mistakes were federal crimes entailing decades in jail, and the other person's possible mistakes, I don't even concede that they're mistakes because it's not obvious what he should have done once she started reversing. It's like a very shocking moment. Yeah. But at most, they were best practice mistakes from the perspective of how to keep yourself safe as a police officer. There weren't crimes.
Yeah. It's so actually... Last week when we were analyzing this, I said that the left is trying to turn Renee Good into George Floyd in the exact same way. But the parallel that I meant last week is actually there's an additional parallel here, because the criticism in the George Floyd case of the police officers' actions, if you want to criticize them, it would be criticizing the police standards, what they're taught, what they're supposed to do, how they're trained in that certain scenario. Because the police officer in that scenario was just doing exactly what's textbook. I mean, you can look at the decks we all have of how he was trained to use that particular knee hold on the neck. And it's the same thing here. If you're criticizing the officer, then you would criticize how he's trained to react in that scenario, which I'm not sitting here. I mean, that's a whole discussion for another day. I'm not sitting here commenting on that one way or the other. But I don't think that we can tell the motive of Renee Good, like whether she was trying to commit murder, like whether this was homicide or whether it was reckless endangerment. Like this is the comment that I got so often last week is people were like, she was trying to get away. And I was like, well, it doesn't matter, because what she did was run into a federal law enforcement officer. That's what matters, not what you think might have been going on in her head.
Yeah, and she had no right to try and get away, right? Like she had something she had no right to do that was itself a federal crime, right? So, she was just trying to like commit a serious federal crime and escape, and then was totally indifferent to the presence of another federal law enforcement officer directly in front of her car and hit him. This is not acceptable conduct. This is, we haven't seen, the Darwin Awards have been gone for a long time, but this would be, prior to this modern crazy era, this would be a Darwin Award. Like, this would be the closest thing to suicide by cop imaginable. Like you are committing a slew of federal crimes and putting a federal law enforcement officer in a place where he thinks he's in danger of dying. That's terrible.
It is terrible. And the other part of this too, if you want to try to understand what's going on in the mind of Renee Good, but also Becca Good, then you have to look at the group that they were associated with through Renee Good's child's school, this radical leftist school that is dedicated to social justice. I mean, I think they were teaching about George Floyd and lessons about the Australian Aboriginal abuse, what they called it. I mean, they're literally training radical leftist activists. And there's this, they call it a loose coalition. I think these ICE Watch groups sort of parallel the structure of Antifa, where they pretend they're like in the wind. They pretend they're not formally structured so that they can avoid any kind of like RICO charges or something. But we have to understand what these ICE Watch organizations, which Becca Good follows the ICE Watch account on Instagram, what they actually teach to these so-called protesters. Because if you look at those tactics are paralleled in the behavior of these women.
Yeah, I mean, all this stuff about obstruction and de-arresting in particular. I mean, the fact that there's like actual writing to the effect of here's how you de-arrest someone.
Yeah, what is that word? What is that word?
De-arrest. This is like this is actually a good. Thank you for just putting up this graphic because it describes it very well. Each de-arrest is a shaking off, which is to say each one is a micro-intifada which can spread. Well, what are they doing? I mean, you're shaking off federal law enforcement. You're physically obstructing law enforcement. You're preventing them from making a lawful arrest physically without any lawful basis. And and the idea. I mean, gosh, talk about throwing your people to the fire. I mean, you think Becca Good's to blame. These people are to blame. To suggest that this is a low-risk activity is absurd. It is extraordinary. It's unlawful, immoral, and extraordinarily high risk. Like you're committing a federal felony right there. They're instructing people to go to these things who want, whatever their naive beliefs about like fighting the oppressive nature of ICE. You're instructing them that it's a low-risk behavior to commit a federal felony in the presence of a federal law enforcement officer. And there was that video of that one guy out in LA or that one trans person out in LA who did something like this, tried to de-arrest someone and got shot in the eye with a non-lethal object. It's like, yeah, no kidding. Arresting someone's really stressful, especially if they're resisting. Like you're trying to make sure they don't hurt you. They're fighting. Like
de-arrest is not a word. Like that's an invented term that's supposed to manipulate people's minds into thinking that this is a legitimate tactic when actually it is just resisting arrest. It is just a crime. They're just describing a way that—
I would say it's not even resisting arrest because it's not you who's being arrested. A de-arrest is an attempt by an outsider to intervene in someone else being arrested and physically stop the law enforcement officer from arresting the third party. So
it's like multiple crimes then.
Yes. Yeah. It's not even, it's worse than resisting arrest, in fact, in my judgment. It's actually a straightforward assault on a law enforcement officer.
So when it comes to the conspiracy that you're talking about, is there evidence in your analysis that these groups, ICE Watch, and ICE Watch is the one that I'm picking up particularly because it's the one that Becca Good followed or follows on Instagram. Is there evidence that they're culpable in this conspiracy?
Yeah. I mean, I don't even know if you need RICO here, right? Because you sort of, RICO is where you lack evidence of the upper, it's for the mafia where there just isn't that physical evidence of the mafia ordering a specific crime. The idea is you get the senior people in the mafia for creating the broader organization, and then the lower level people are actually committing the crimes. But here you actually have evidence that maybe the senior people were directly involved in this conspiracy, like whoever wrote this piece and gave it to a variety of people. Like this is physical evidence that they were creating a sort of agreement to facilitate a mass use of this tactic.
Our movement is gaining ground. People around us are waking up. The mainstream media leftist narrative is cracking. At Blaze TV, we've built a home for some of the strongest, smartest voices in conservative media. When you subscribe to Blaze TV, you're not just watching content, you're supporting a movement. You're backing creators who think for themselves. It's everything that the networks won't show you, delivered on your terms on any device, anytime. And it starts at just $8 a month. BlazeTV.com/Liz, promo code Liz.